Good morning, crypto Twitter, it's Misty Crypto, spreading crypto with doctors showing its benefits to my generation. Shout out to all my people, Gen Z needs to be included, it's really that simple. We are savage, amazed, boss, zesty, making money at the same time, spread peace. I feel empty if you don't include Gen Z, about to change the world, so y'all better get ready. Misty Crypto, I'm never backing down, I got a wax account, you should check it out. So many NFTs, I think I lost count, and I'm only getting started, yeah, I'm barely off the ground. Misty Crypto, you cannot stop me, my hands are made from diamonds, your hands fall like origami. Never be the boss of me, Bitcoin's all I need, when I say I'm zesty, that's just me, talking all day. Crypto and yum bomb, marketplace, I wanna see the more, we gotta go through cyberspace, leave this world without a trace, say pay for a different day, cause we partners in the cryptos did it stay.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Miss Teen Crypto Show. Oh my gosh, today I am feeling the zest. I'm a little tired. I had a 12-hour day yesterday at Security Token Summit in the city, so shout out to Security Token Summit. Literally love you guys at Draper Gore and Home. Today is a very chillax episode. This is going to be an awesome catch up with Arcane Bear. He hasn't been on for the past, I think, almost a year now. But before we jump into the show, as usual, we're going to give a zesty shout out to 3 amazing sponsors of the Miss Teen Crypto Show. First being Wax Blockchain, killing the game as usual. Guys, if you're looking for no gas fees and instant transfers, guys, Wax Blockchain, cannot preach it enough. In the bottom right corner, you'll see a QR code. Scan it. It's a free NFT. I see that we have 8 likes right now. Let's get to 15 and I'll drop another. Second, if you're looking to buy NFTs, sell NFTs, create NFTs, whatever you want, Nifty Blocks is a great trade to earn platform on Wax. And third, we have Ballet. Absolutely killing the game. Much love for the Ballet fam. Arcane Bear is going to pick one keyword during the show for you guys to enter to win a Ballet wallet. So if you win, send me a DM on Twitter with your email and I'll hook you up. So thank you guys for popping out. There's so many friends in the chat. JMac, Randy Bitcoiner, Tom Allen, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming. Please drop a like, subscribe, share out this stream, and let's jump into it. Arcane Bear, T-Ho, how are you, my friend?
Boom, well, Randy, it's great to see you again. You're quite the hustler, I see. It's always excited to see, your expansion into the crypto world. So it'll be fun to catch up.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a journey, and you've been a part of my journey since literally the start, really. And it's been a wild ride, and I really thank you for your support and everything like that. Do you mind actually introducing yourself to the audience if they haven't seen you before, which is crazy if you haven't seen Sir Arcane before? But go on.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. I go by Tio, and we have a YouTube channel called Arcane Bear. Over the last few years, we've kind of dived into focusing on anything that we felt was of value. So our early shows were Bitcoin at $400, and I'm like, it's going to 6 million. But then we'd have podcasts with biologists and physicists, PhDs in a bunch of different fields. And as we started to progress, we realized that we are good at finding unique fringe kind of signal identifiers, and some of those things are more valuable, usually the things that you can invest in early. So we started to really focus our research of that signal finder into what you'd call venture capital effectively. And through 2017, 2018, 2019, there's a bunch of really cool projects. Matic, for instance, was at like a $25 million market cap. And for people that don't know, venture capital is one of the ways to participate early in a company.
Yes.
And most of the time, those rounds are generally closed. Even today, the rounds are still closed, but the product is becoming available to play with earlier. So you're earning participation rewards within the ecosystem. So this is a huge driver, we think, to supercharge venture capital, because it's made the loudest proponents of the new products and the new ecosystems. There's no one louder or more excited about a project when they give you a bunch of money for no reason. I'm not sure. Do you have a .eth domain name?
Of course, I have missteen.eth, missteencrypto.eth. Got it.
Did you buy it before they gave the ENS tokens away?
Yes, I did actually. I didn't put my PFP on there. I'm like so mad that I didn't do the PFP because I saw ENS came out with a book, and if you put your profile pic on the ENS domain like previous to some date, you were in the book. So I'm so upset I didn't do that, but whatever.
Oh, well, they see if you got the airdrop for the ENS tokens if you were
Yeah.
ahead of that time. And they gave you like, it was like at the high, it was like $15,000 worth of tokens for every .ENS name.
Insane.
I mean, what product or company have you ever bought something from that you've turned around and they've given you like an order of magnitude money more value back than you put in? Do you know of any product like that in your life?
No, honestly, the only place you'd find that is in crypto.
Yeah, it's one of these unique, I think, benefits is that the ecosystem, and the way it should be really is the financial ecosystem is able to reward everybody. And I think that these are the early signs of a big change, not just in finance, the monetary system, but probably also in identity and governance as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of a basis of what we do. We try to find areas like this that are really unique, emerging, and then we try to make investments as early as possible. And there's a huge amount of potential for the average individual, unless you're a New York City resident, in which case you're regulated out of playing. You're just mentioning the conversation around security tokens and this idea, and really what we're looking for, or what I'm looking for, what I think is interesting, is the potential for people that don't really have access to financial services and who have in general been regulated out of using any type of banking or economic system. So we're really heavily focused into the Web3 and the gaming sector now because we think it has the potential to create more proliferation of the technology. Axie Infinity stunned me. I had no idea that games would be so interesting, but lo and behold, everybody around the world, regardless of culture, they all play games of some kind or another. So it's got adoption. Games by themselves have adoption in pretty much every remote tribe of the world. So it's a great way, I think, for the adoption to take on. So we're really excited about what games are going to bring, even though it had nothing to do with our original thesis. I know nothing, literally almost nothing about games. It just feels like such a highly charged sector. So that's mostly what we do at the Arcane Bear now, is just try to focus on those really cool Web3 games that are out there. Often they're very cute. We try to look for the cutest character games possible.
I mean, there's tons of them out there. There's so many being developed right now. What do you like being a part of venture capital? I mean, it sounds fancy, it's very financial, and it's like, playing with big boy money here. So what does it mean to be a venture capitalist really? Like how do you vet projects? What's your like process?
Well, so one of the fun things, again, is that this sector has kind of changed it. When Matic was back in 2018, 2019 at a $25 million market cap, it was an early stage company still, even though it had an IDO. So maybe you didn't participate in the IDO, right? So anything before the IDO in a private sale is usually considered like early venture capital, which is seed stage or angel investing. And then you would have what's called a Series A and B, C, and traditional round investing. A lot of these companies, when Matic hit the open market, it was only like $25 million, and I think it came down quite dramatically, around 70% into the 2018 kind of bear market low. So there was a time when Matic was only like maybe $10 million in market cap, which is absurd because now it was in the billions at its high. So that type of exponential growth is really what is most exciting about venture capital, is that you might put $1,000 in and walk away with $1 million, or you might put $10,000 in and walk away with $1 million. And there's a lot of, there's some really good books out there that kind of go over this thesis where how many different investments over the last 100 years could you have put $10,000 in, and within how long of a time does it take for it to turn into $1 million? And there's actually quite a few. So these are what would be like 100x is 10,000 into $1 million.
Yeah.
And this happens frequently in the crypto ecosystem as well. So Matic went from like pennies to multiple, I think $2 to $3 at its high. So you're talking about a 200 to 300x position. For every $1,000 you put in, you're walking away with $300,000 effectively. Wow. So this type of like growth is what we're most excited about in venture capital, and it's about being early. But most of the time people are priced out of being early, and what they do is they get caught in basically, I was kind of making fun of it the other day, the initial public offering of Coinbase didn't hit the market for the average person until it was already at an $89 billion market cap. Like is the upside for anybody, right? And the downside is like, I'm sure you've used Coinbase before, but there was no way for you to early on participate in its early rounds. And what I'm interested in is how does a person, say, invest $5 into an early company? And, obviously the United States government is going to want to get involved with securities laws here. But again, where we saw most of it come from was the gaming space, because now people were playing to own, and it kind of removed some of the aspects of the spending model within the ecosystem that I guess make it more an NFT, something a bit more like a product than a financial instrument. People can speculate on products all they want. People speculate on the prices of Rolexes and watches all the time. They actually have a high secondary market. There's more speculation on the open market. Anyway, so what's been kind of fun is that venture capital used to be really a kind of a closed private club, because it's largely about who you know, who you know, and who you can help along the way. Because most of these companies are going to fail, so you want to make sure not that just that you're investing in them, but is there a chance that they're going to succeed? And if you could you help them succeed too? So a lot of the venture capital players who are good at their job, they bring capital, but also network and
value.
Yeah, they bring a fair amount of value to the table in terms of like, hey, we know people that are developers or builders or programmers or security and banks. And, sometimes the founder just has a great idea and a vision, and that's really who you want to get behind. So what people should be most excited about is that pretty much everyone can participate still, even if let's say you don't participate in an IDO. That didn't make a difference with Matic. And being patient here gives you this, you didn't have to buy in all at once in Matic on a specific day in 2018. You could have gone along with a really simple, like, I'm going to invest $100 a month over 2 or 3 years, and walked away with $1 million from a very easy investment strategy. So that opportunity, I think, is what's most exciting for people. And that's why we like venture capital. And it generally was a kind of like a big boy money place only, because you were like, oh, well, we need to cut a minimum check of $100,000. But we've seen that evolve, I think. Normally, I don't think someone like me would have even ended up in venture capital by normal standards, just because of the regulatory framework. Now, there are cool things out there like AngelList, and you can find early deal flow for psilocybin mushroom companies, or a whole wide range of products. And I really excited for what Naval Ravikant did with AngelList there, and all the people that produce venture capital on there as well. But it doesn't mean that someone in rural Philippines has access to that upside. And again, Axie changed that. The reason why I was so excited about Bitcoin is like, how do you get this technology into as many people's hands as possible so that they don't need the government managing the money? I had a friend who's in Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is in the total chaos right now.
Yeah.
They're flipping cars. They're aiming at all the rich people or anyone who is in political power, and probably for good reason. It appears, at least from the story that I read, but they basically had to leave the home, the dogs behind. I think what's, again, also unique about this is that you maintain more ownership of any of your assets. And one of the unique functions about Bitcoin is, well, the Sri Lankan government has nothing to do with Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Its functionality isn't relying on an independent state or the function of a government and their money. So how do we get as much of this technology into as many people's hands as possible, especially when they're going through a crisis? Because if you might see, again, a huge adoption of keep kind of dreaming, you see a huge adoption of a video game and something like this in Sri Lanka. These people have no ability to get regular US dollars, but here they could easily trade for US dollars, and they're back to some type of functional positive economy again. So that potential for us is why we're like, okay, who is the most likely to change what the next 5 to 10 years look like? And it's gaming. We think that really leads the adoption curve.
Absolutely. I think gaming is definitely going to onboard a ton of people into crypto, especially because there are a lot of games that are play to earn that are similar to what people are playing already. I mean, no matter what kind of, person you are, you're into games in some sort of way, whether that's like in person with something like chess, playing cards, or being able to play like an MMORPG or something like that.
Your Suko.
Yeah, there's so many games to play, and I think, making them play to earn or play and earn, which is like, a little different. There's so many ways to draw people in. I think blockchain is definitely the way. And what was the first game? I know you and I were talking about Star Atlas like how long ago now? Like a year ago?
It's about a year. Well, so there's one more thing I wanted to cover about venture capital, because
Oh, of course.
I probably led with the wrong foot there, which is about the upside. And one of the really fun things about venture capital is how you limit the downside. With each one of these ideas, you didn't need to invest an extraordinarily large amount of money.
That's true.
And a lot of the times, what happens is people will get really excited about the hype of a market and its buildup, and they'll invest right at the peak. That's usually when most investors kind of join, is they join right at the top of the hype cycle, and it's usually got some 70 to 89% to go downwards before. But a good thesis should always have you making sure you're only investing effectively. It just always says, invest only what you can afford to lose. But it should be invest what you're willing to lose, because often you're going to get it wrong. Like there's a bunch of investments we made alongside Matic that we also got wrong in comparison.
Yeah.
Fetch we got right, Matic we got right. There's a few others that we got right, but there's a few others like Digibyte that just never performed the way we thought the future might unfold. And this is normal. So when you're trying to pick winners, you're going to get losers. So if you're going to get losers, how do you best manage for the fact that there are losers in the tables? You never want to overextend. We saw Luna come down. I didn't even know you could go so low. We hadn't seen, that was a bigger market collapse than BitConnect back in 2017. So
insane.
Yeah, something that appears even as maybe a good idea can still totally collapse and fail. So being able to lead the foot with, okay, each one of these times I make an investment, if I look at it as a bill, and really what I think is the most important part is to empower investors with easy to recreate steps. Like trying to trade the market is very difficult. I've done it. I've also failed at doing it. It's not easy at all, but it's a lot easier to find steady conviction through building positions that you're willing to lose. Like every month I have to spend X amount of dollars on bills. Why am I not spending X amount of dollars on investing, where I'm not looking at the portfolio to generate revenue? I'm thinking to myself, where is this going to be 10 years from now? And if we assume that we're going to continue to grow and come up with new advancements as humans, what does that maybe look like? And where's the most room for upside? So most people probably, okay, well, if I tell you could put in $1,000, maybe turn it into a $250,000, first thing you're going to want to try to do is put in a lot more money.
A lot more, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, well, great. So if I put in $10,000, it's going to turn into $2.5 million. And we often elude ourselves to the idea that we're correct. And I, as good as I think I am at getting it right, I still get it wrong. So you have to prepare for getting it wrong first. And then from there, it's actually really easy to make good investments, because once you find your winners, you just keep investing into them. Like you could have invested into Bitcoin every single day between the top of 2017 and the bottom, and that would have got you the best price. Whereas most people are like, oh my God, I bought at the top, and then they sell it down to the bottom because they're confused. But what you should be doing is ignoring price and just accumulating assets that doesn't disrupt your monthly budget. And then it's very easy to be successful because you've got a game plan that's repeatable. So that's kind of the two-sided story of venture capital. We love it because there's so much room for upside, and because you only need to put in a very limited amount for that upside to reach the potential that you're looking for an investment.
It's really funny. Like, I really like the way you think, because a lot of people aren't thinking like, okay, so I paid my bills. What can I do with that money that's productive almost, and maybe will help appreciate what I have? And not a lot of people have that mindset. Even, people in the space for a few years, they panic sell. A lot of people, paper hand things sometimes. A lot of people don't have that mentality of diamond hands hodling and believing in your fundamentals and why you're investing in something.
Yeah, well, often what happens too is if you make it, let's say you made your good investment, you got $2,000 in thematic throughout 2017 and 2019, and it shoots up, it's worth $350,000. And the market capitulates. At one point it turns around, you're down 80%. So that $400,000 is maybe worth like 20 or 30. And you're thinking to yourself, well, dang, I should just cut and run. But what we don't know is what the future looks like, where Matic maybe goes up even more. And selling early was the wrong idea. And this is often what people did with Bitcoin. Like, I bought Bitcoin at 40 cents, I sold it at $8. I said, well, your profit taking didn't actually benefit in the long term. It was way too early.
Literally,
So
yes.
so there's two sides of the story. It's usually if we have a winner, we should keep investing into it, not be taking profits from it necessarily. But often, because you've made a good investment, it might be more money than you've ever had. So how do you deal with taking profits to make sure you're able to cultivate the life that you want to live over the next few years to keep making investments? So
true.
you're kind of always at this battle of, what's my monthly budget, and then how much extra revenue are we generating, or how much extra cash can I take as a principal to make, I guess, better investments. So sometimes, what's hard is the fact that you're going to go, if you go up to your first $500,000 or something from your $3,000 or $5,000 investment, and then it comes down, this is really where it really starts to hurt the emotions, because the negative feels way more impactful than the positive gain. Like being up $400,000 is nowhere near as exciting or as emotionally engaging as it is to be down that much. Going down that much is much more noticeable. You're excited, but it doesn't have it's much more temporal compared to the downstroke, effectively. So because we are negatively associated, likely for survival tactics, like it's we're probably negative on implicit basis, just so that we survive. Like, hey, if I hear something out in the bush, like my initial instinct should be to move instead of to run towards it, just even if it's just a rock, right? It's like so there's a survival tactic to this, but it's also the opposite of what you should be doing as an investor. And this is why most people make mistakes, is that the market, throughout its who knows how many hundreds of years of existence, it preys on people's human nature and what they get wrong. And paper handing, or like this trading into profits, is when you don't have a lot of wealth, you've generated the first kind of main growth in your game, and then you start to get dragged down in this emotional turmoil, and you often end up selling instead of, or again, take profits, focus on building your own business. Like, you've done a great job of building your own brand and your own podcast in a very lucrative crypto sector where there's not a lot of people that still even know what's going on, it seems. So this type of forward thinking is great for generating revenue and business, but the portfolio, when you've got a bunch of extra cash in it, it looks like the source of your revenue, and it's not. It should be a source of your wealth later on in life. When you're like, oh, I have assets, because assets assets, money, and currency are different things. And so how we define each one of those things in our portfolio, I think, is important. So
absolutely.
Keep it simple. Just make strategic investments over time, and then it's easier to diamond hand, because the process, you're not risking as much each time. You're used to the portfolio growing and sinking dramatically, and allowing yourself to generate revenue through some other avenue in life.
Wow, those are some wise words. Wise words. Don't make it too complicated, my friends. Hodl, diamond hands, the whole bit. Ooh, it's actually a nice time for you, Sir Arcane, to give us a keyword for people to enter in the chat in order to win a free Ballet wallet.
How do I come up with a keyword? Do I just pick a word?
Yeah, pick a word.
Forest.
Forest.
Word forest.
Speaking of the forest, you do it looks like you live in the forest. I mean, like, is it technically a forest? Like, I don't want to come off like, oh, like, you know what I mean?
Technically, I don't know if it's a jungle, but it's also a forest. I'm not actually sure. That's this idea of the forest from the tree as well. I think there's enough trees in the jungle for it to also be a forest. So maybe a jungle is also a forest. I'm not sure. We'd have to check someone who knows a bit more about the biosphere conversation than myself on that one.
Yeah, I mean, you live in a beautiful place. I do want to disclose where you live, or like the area, or you can't.
Oh yeah, in Costa Rica. I love Costa Rica.
Costa Rica is so beautiful. Do you mind sharing when you moved to Costa Rica and what the vibe is over there?
Well, it's about 9 years now. I like plants and animals and instinctively. So Costa Rica has a lot of plants and animals, especially down where I live. So I'm down on the West Pacific coast. It's mostly nothing but mountains and trees out here. It's actually surprising that I have internet even to do this. If you ever come out to visit, you'd be like, this is in the middle of nowhere, Tio. How does anything work? Yeah,
that has to be insane.
Well, it's there's I think money doesn't solve quality of life issues. It definitely can solve a lot of quality of life issues in terms of like what you eat and how you sleep, and who do you have access to for whether you're going to the gym or what things you like to do. But it's still largely a part of your own mind. And out here in the jungle, I've got a really nice relationship with just nature. I get to see the sunset and the clouds roll through the mountains every day and morning. So those types of things I really appreciate. So I like it out here. I'm a big fan of plants and animals like this anywhere. So Costa Rica just happens to be was easy at the time, I guess. I'm not sure I'd do it again. If I had to do it all over again, I'm not sure I would move to Costa Rica to begin with, just because I like it's literally in the middle of nowhere. I say this, and I'm sure people think it's pretty much in very rural parts of Costa Rica. So it's not convenient in any way, shape, or form, but it's absolutely stunning. Yeah.
It is stunning. By the way, I just rolled for our winner, Claude. Congratulations, you have won. So Claude, please send me your email and DM on Twitter, twitter.com/MissTeenCrypto. Please send me a DM, Claude. I'm just gonna.
You're doing wax NFTs?
Not an NFT, Ballet wallet. Send me an email so I can send you a Ballet wallet. I'm like all over the place today. Yeah, so I am giving away wax NFTs as I'm doing that. That's why, like, my brain is just, like, all over the place, because I'm giving away NFTs and the Ballet wallet at the same time. Multitasking is not my thing, Arcane, but I am trying. Crypty Girl is actually in the chat. Crypty Girl, hello, my friend. She asked, mountains or ocean, which do you choose?
Oh, mountain, or I'm sure it's mountain or ocean view. I would pick high mountains. I like big mountains. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of big mountains. The ocean views are beautiful and dynamic, and the sunsets are absolutely astonishing. But I just love mountains. I think the massive rocks of the whole, I guess the Northwest mountains all the way down to Argentina, the whole mountain ridge is pretty sexy. Here in Costa Rica, we've got some really tall mountains too, and I have a mountain view. And in Costa Rica, you'd probably want the ocean view. But if I had the pick of the cream of the crop of the mountains, like the Alps or the Swiss Alps or something with some stunning white peaks, that's where I'd go.
Wow. Ooh, I pictured you being more of like a beach guy, like,
I love the beach. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, the beaches are beautiful there. I mean, you have a motorcycle. You have like the whole bit there. Like, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Sir Tiho, do you mind walking us through like a day in the life of you? Like, what do you do? Like okay, like you wake up. Like, what's your move? Like, give me your whole day.
Well, it's pretty boring. I actually spend a lot of the days, at least Monday through Friday, in the morning time on phone calls, meeting founders and trying to suss out who's got good ideas and who's just totally full of BS. So it's like the majority of the morning. I try to do that only from 9 to 11, and then Fridays we take off. But in the morning, I really like doing yoga. When I try to get that in whenever I'm like well off enough to do it. I like playing music. It's probably my other favorite thing to do out here. We've got a really nice kind of easy access. So I like we've got 9 kilometers of beach walk, take the dogs on the walk. I grow ayahuasca out here in the jungle. I've got pineapples, a few hundred fruit trees.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Some of it's kind of simple. Get to pick, like a lot of the times we have pineapple smoothies. They're almost all made from the pineapples on the property. Got a bunch of turmeric. But yeah, the day actually normally starts with a chaga coffee. That's probably my favorite start of the day. Something with a coffee with a little bit of honey and butter in it. It's like, yeah, I'm a total coffee addict. I love coffee so much.
Wow. So on your property there's pineapple trees?
Oh no, so sorry, pineapples are not trees. Pineapples.
No, I was about to say that. I'm a little thrown off.
No, yeah, they grow like a cactus. So like the top of the pineapple, if you rip it off, you could replant it, and then the new pineapple grows right through the center of the pineapple top. Yeah, so every time you go to the grocery store, if you got a pineapple top, you can plant that. It'll grow another pineapple.
Wow, nature is so interesting. I mean, I've never grown a plant, so I can't. I mean, I did for like a science fair project in like 8th grade or something like that, but I've never like grown anything on my own. That's actually like really cool, and it must taste
it's so
like
city of you.
It is so city. Like
for
as I'm saying this, I'm
project.
like SMH. Like literally, I can't. There's no land. I mean, even if you had a lawn in my neighborhood, I wouldn't even grow anything on that. I mean, you could like a flower, but I don't know if you could like do anything, like to eat in these neighborhoods. It's like so much smog, and like the air quality is not great. Like where you live, it's nice temperature. Being outside, maybe they'll get a little bit of like precipitation, water them a little bit. I don't know. How's this like?
Well, the taking care of plants here is super easy. I have to do nothing except for make sure I plant them at the right time of year. Then they grow fantastically. But you bring up an interesting topic here, which is one of the reasons I moved out here was the fragility of the apparent economic and supply chain. So one of the reasons I moved out here was because I feel that the way we're currently managing society is destined to effectively fail. There's some things we're really good at. We're really good at coming up with exciting ideas that are inspirational and then spending a lot of money on trying to solve those problems if they're profitable. If they don't produce any profit, we don't seem to be super excited about solving those problems, which is kind of a downside to a civilization, which is, okay, well, how do you manage? We found this great solution, but it doesn't make actually a bunch of money, but it solves the problem. We're like, nah, you find me a solution that makes a bunch of fucking money, then we'll talk.
Literally.
So we've probably got a bunch of solutions to these problems, but they're not profitable, so they don't get implemented. So part of my thought was, hey, I don't like the way this fragile economy looks. If things ever go wrong, I've got, a few acres of property and plants and fresh water. I got like 20,000 acres of water storage. So, I'm not like a prepper for doom and gloom. First, I did it first off just because I love being close to nature. But I think that there's also something pragmatic about, where do we get our food or our water from? A lot of people are very disconnected from that conversation. And I know it's just something nice to have as part of your core. Like, if you look at an asset, a lot of people, when they buy property, like, oh, can I rent this home out? And that's kind of the utility of the home, or do they live in the home themselves? Whereas here, the utility of the property was for food and water specifically. It has a home also, but it wasn't a leading indicator. The property is like, oh, it has food and water. It's got like 15 different cacao trees on it. We've got a bunch of avocados and stuff too.
Avocados. Whoa! Make avocado toast in the morning, have a pineapple smoothie for lunch, and just completely vibe. That's like the life. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, someone has said in the chat, they gave me a little hope in my life. They said that I might not be able to farm food, but I can farm crypto, which is just as important. I mean, it's important, but not as important as food, because I think I was talking about this with another guest as well. Like, if the truckers, right, decided to not move, right, there would be only 3 days supply of food in the city. So I'd be in a little bit of a pickle here. But if I had
you'd have to eat your own pickle.
Literally, oh my gosh, I can't imagine not having food supply, but you're able to have not maybe an abundant amount, but you do have a nice amount of fruit and things growing on your property.
I hope that we don't have to go to these places as a society, but when we look at governments in the past, we seem to see a story that repeats itself. And right now, society, at least in my opinion, is repeating itself that is extraordinarily dangerous. Over the last few years, I have been I don't even have the proper words technically for how, let's say, I don't have the proper words for how screwed up some things are, and probably have been for a very long time, but they became very noticeable over the last few years. If you look, that's probably the hardest part, because if you look, it's often you have to find something that you don't necessarily agree with, and that's one of the hardest parts about a good conversation, is sometimes the other person that knows more than you is right, and then you have to change your opinion and come to terms with this kind of new form of what reality is.
Yep.
I think that one of the downsides is that we as a society keep making these mistakes where governments become too big. They go through the same process of debasement of the monetary system by promising shit that they can never deliver. I mean, I thought it was so ridiculous that Joe Biden came out and was like, oh, we're going to decrease inflation by increasing taxes. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, this is propaganda. This is misinformation. This is what people in the highest levels of power look like when they're lying. And that to me, again, is beyond a level of confusion that I thought was possible. It was like, I thought we had hit peak stupidity. So, but no, apparently not. So because of this, largely, I think more than like from a doomsday perspective, I just like being closer to nature because I'm not caught up in a lot of these like politically highlighted or charged conversations, and you kind of just hang out with animals. But at the end of the day, every time these governments have done this and the people have rooted them on into some form of socialism, this kind of this Wokian crowd speak has actually happened a bunch of times before. Like you look at George Orwell's book 1984, or the other one he did, The Road to Wigan Pier. We find that humanity is doing this over and over again, from the Bolshevik Revolution to Nazi Germany. These types of degradations in the social contract, once they start to break down, it is usually a quick fall for societies, and they can recover. So I've got high hopes for the United States. I like a lot of the ingenuity that the Western, or maybe not the Western, but some type of free world democracy has brought to the table, and it feels like it's being slowly extinguished. The freedom of speech has basically been taken off the table just because people don't like it, or they think that having a conversation is dangerous somehow, which is just patently absurd. So yeah, we're in a really unique time, and one of the reasons why I get up and I try to share videos about Bitcoin still every day is not because you can make a bunch of money from it, but because when a crisis hits, it's one of the most important assets to likely have in your balance sheet. But when chatting with friends who are living in Sri Lanka and then having to overnight leave the country, leave everything behind. Well, what can they bring with them? Their crypto. They can't bring enough cash. Bank cards don't work anymore, but crypto still functions, and it's not under this mandated state regulation. So Bitcoin is a crisis asset. Is kind of a parallel reason of like, okay, well, what do these things do, and what kind of type of optionality do they offer me under what circumstances? And I think Bitcoin is a great option on crisis, more than an asset or inflation hedge. It's a crisis hedge in my opinion. So anything that kind of fits that bill of like, where can I make an investment that will hedge against the next crisis? Because it's within the crisis that if you can find stability and invest it when there's blood, like literal blood in the streets, that's when the massive amounts of money get made, is by the investors who know how to take advantage of that chaos and through opportunity.
I really like that, because when if God forbid you have to flee your country, you're not carrying bars of gold with you. You're not carrying a suitcase of cash on you, because obviously you're not going to get far. But having your private keys, having your cell phone, having Bitcoin, having cryptocurrency, that's something you can take with you. I know a lot of people that I heard stories about, when a lot of the Russia stuff was going on, Ukraine, not that it's still not going on, but a lot of people were fleeing and they were bringing Bitcoin. They couldn't bring anything else. They had to bring what fit in their pocket. And their phone fit in their pocket. Their private keys fit in their pocket. I mean, I just, there's so many things that, maybe governments are enforcing on us. Kagi Jan in the chat wants to ask you about CBDCs. A lot of, that's like the next push from the gov. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh God, yeah. Well, so humanity,
we don't have to go too deep, but
yeah, humanity appears to be at a crossroads with understanding of who's in charge, and the people are supposed to be. And right now, that's currently not what's happening. And every time we've seen that in history, it ends up in some type of revolution. Now, I don't know how long that stuff takes or where it goes, but yes, it's extraordinarily likely that what you'll see over the next few years is some type of financial crisis. The Federal Reserve, the central banks will step in and go, oh, no, it was the billionaire class. It was all the people who made too much. It wasn't us government who have been printing money like wild men for decades. It wasn't our fault. They're going to blame someone. They go, we have this whole new way to pay you. Now the Fed will just pay you directly to your wallet, and we'll be able to manage it. And if we feel you don't need to use those currencies, we can just stop you, because that's how we regulate it. And every dollar will come with their own built-in little tax mechanism. So if you spend it on this thing, it'll be taxed to this price, taxed on this. So the CBDC is basically, don't want to sound like a religious zealot or anything here, but it would be a step into the apocalypse as far as I'm concerned, if not like right over the edge.
It's a pretty scary thought. I'm not gonna lie. being in crypto and being in Bitcoin, especially for as long as you have, you understand the premise, you understand the fundamentals more than most, and you understand why we need Bitcoin to the fullest degree. We just need a currency, we need a money that, like you said, is a crisis hedge, not just a hedge against inflation. I mean, we're experiencing inflation to the highest, one of the highest degrees right now. I don't know what gas is like near you, but I was in Manhattan last night and gas was almost $7 a gallon. We're experiencing high inflation to the point where people might not be able to drive their cars soon.
Yeah. And it's when it goes from not being able to drive cars to not being able to afford the food, because the price of gas is a knock-on effect of everything. How do you think the food gets to where it is? So if gas prices go up, then the price of everything goes up alongside of it. And,
exactly.
And inflationary moments are difficult, and it's hard to see what the Federal Reserve will do here. I was pretty convinced up until this point, up until 2020, that what they would do is just keep printing effectively, that there'd be no way for them to get out of the political nonsense of tightening rates without destroying the capital and the equities markets. But after the last year, I don't doubt one bit that there's some type of criminality going on and corruption at some of the highest levels. And I don't see, if they want to, they could entirely collapse all the markets. If they just tighten the rates, they can destroy basically all the markets around the world. And one of the things that I think is not super recognizable unless you spend a lot more time in the markets is that one of the only reasons the market is up is because they're inflating the currency supply. So all assets grow under this kind of lifting of the entire monetary supply. And we could make some, there's a whole another conversation of arguments around whether this is good or bad or not. But effectively, it's not good for you if you are the one holding dollars, and especially if you don't have any assets, because over the last few years, all of the asset prices have been inflated by hundreds of %, whether it's in equities or private property. So if you didn't own assets and you still don't own assets, it's even harder now to get those assets because all you have is basically a currency that's on a runaway train with a failure to be able to buy anything. So the Fed is going to try to, and has been, increasing interest rates. That means that anybody who has debt in the US dollar has to pay back this little increment more, and it's going to slow down the velocity of dollars. And likely what you're seeing in Sri Lanka is actually subtly a part of a knock-on effect of these changes. Now, Sri Lanka, of course, had some of its own internal problems that led to this, like huge amounts of debts that the government had taken out to build horrible infrastructure practices. But effectively, the same thing is going on in all of these countries. They're all running a huge deficit and debt, and eventually they will all face the same music. Who can sit down last will effectively be the tale of the story here. That's ultimately, I think what's the most interesting is that we do have two pretty clear and obvious choices. We either go the way of the Wokian straight into CBDCs, and I can't imagine that being a good future for anybody, or people understand who should be in charge, which is the people. They take that power back, and ultimately you see a proliferation of this kind of sovereign, non-state-backed money, identity, and governance systems that take off locally. It's a wild thing to see, but if you're any good at scientific research and you happen to have a fairly discerning eye, you can tell that the scientific research in Denmark and Norway or Japan and Germany is actually often different than the United States, and that should worry you. You shouldn't be able to get different results depending on the language, and so something's wrong in the scientific conversation. And I can't express again how kind of scary that is effectively, because it basically means that I could jump on TV, lie to you about some shit in statistics, and everybody just would eat it up because I'm wearing a white lab coat and in the right particular position to say, oh, this person is credible, when it's clearly not credible information. So yeah, we're in a really, really weird time. I guess the fun part would be is out of all the things I've learned from living with nature, my love of plants and animals, is that even though I'm not religious by any particular sect or schism, I definitely think that there's something much, much bigger than my abilities to comprehend going on, that has not like a destiny, but somewhere that it's clearly choosing to go. There's so much perfection in the world around. So a lot of this stuff I see as a necessary step to wherever we're going next. And I think that on the other side of this, should we get it right, is probably one of the greatest technological booms that humanity has ever seen. It will put the age that we're in right now to a shame. We basically live in a dark age ruled by corrupt megalomaniacs. And what's on the other side of this? Like if we allowed where we already are to proliferate some of the natural medicines like mushrooms that we know are so effective, there's a real possibility that we see a huge boom in technology and medicine in the coming decades as well, if we manage to find something that is more decentralized, more sovereign, and controlled by the people instead of the bureaucracies.
Wow, that was an absolutely deep conversation. I can't believe it's almost been an hour, Tiho. Like we've been at this for almost an hour, and I feel like we talked about I feel like we didn't even talk about anything yet. We talked so much, but I feel like we didn't cover enough. I really thank you for coming out today. Is there anything else that, people do you think should know about right now? Are there, besides gaming, are there any like upcoming markets you think we should know about, things we should watch out for concerning things like, Gov, CBDCs, all that stuff?
Well, yeah, I think yeah, I guess to some degree, just be wary of anyone who's doing things for your own safety. It's the first good step. They're kind of like the stranger in the van with candy, it seems. But in terms of the market, often, Randy, I would ask you the same thing. When I was younger, I was recognizing a lot of the trends because I was in the place to be using them. Everyone's at a unique position in their life to recognize something that's valuable that I may never recognize, for instance, right? So ultimately, you should probably focus your life on what you're passionate about and what interests you, and you're more likely to be successful by doing that. And I might think it's stupid, and it might be $1 billion idea. So it's hard to really prepare people for like what a good investment looks like to them, because you should really, again, find something that you're interested in. Crypto just happens to have this unique ability to pipe into almost every other sector because of how much it changes. So whether you like art, or if you like music, or if you like finance or governance or games, like crypto pretty much has a little bit of everything. So it's a fun sector to be in. But ultimately, trying to hone that skill set of like, what made you think Bitcoin was a good idea at X dollars or something, or what makes you think this is a good idea, and then test your luck. Play your conviction bet. How much am I willing to lose to see if I'm right or wrong here, and then if I become right and the universe keeps proving my thesis, I'm just going to keep investing in it. So Bitcoin's at the top of our chart for a sovereign, non-state backed global money. We think that that's maybe almost inevitable at this point, which would be fantastic. But a lot of the things that go along with that, you've got so much potential for, again, non-state backed ID or governance, and really what that looks like as time goes. I think, one of the reasons why we focus on games is because it's a little bit easier to understand than some of the layer one stuff. Like we made some investments in Solana and Avalanche. These are great investments, but it's also technically difficult.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a large amount of technical quality. So you might make an investment you think is this amazing tech thing, right? Like Luna, there's a lot of hype around Luna. Like I was had Do Kwon on the show for a podcast, and he was pretty humble in the early days. And then, watching his comments and his tweets as he got bigger, like, oh, I don't converse with poor people. Like, what's going on? So I think ultimately try to keep an eye on the founders.
Yes.
Bitcoiners are unique with kind of no real guiding founder other than organic adoption. But here we're still looking for people that might be able to lead a change. And Vitalik Buterin obviously is like a very interesting thinker. So is Emin Gunn from Avalanche. So I think, what we use to kind of qualify an investment is, first off, how much are we willing to lose? Because chances are we could be wrong anyways. Even if it is like it's got all the hallmarks of a great investment, great founders, great team,
Yep.
It can still fail. So how much are we willing to lose on this if we fail? And if we're really excited about it, when do we mark our ideas to come back and invest again? So I think look at it as a longer term thesis. If you don't have a few years marked into your investment strategy, you're probably doing it wrong. And just, again, lastly, suggest don't trade. Like most of the time you're going to lose. Like it's fun and it's exciting. You think, hey, I'm going to be able to earn revenue, and you can. Some people do. There have been some people who have been extraordinarily successful, but they're a small fraction and a small minority in comparison with the people that made great equity or early investments into things, again, like Bitcoin or any number of the other assets that have grown throughout the last decade here. So be patient, focus on stuff that excites you so you keep showing back up, and then just make investments that you're willing to lose. Like if you think buying a monkey for $2,000 is a risk you're willing to take because you know you can lose the $2,000, but then it was definitely worth buying a Bored Ape when they were $2,000, right? But you couldn't convince me at that moment. I thought that was a good idea. Like, no, I'm gonna invest in Avalanche instead. Both worked out, but again, you should focus on what you're interested in because the Bored Apes is clearly a great idea. Some of these have been clearly interesting, kind of breaks into the frontiers of the technology. So don't be afraid to do what might appear stupid to other people if you've got a lot of conviction about it.
Absolutely. And even Crypty Girl, like I agree with you and her that, is a good call to look at who the founder is and their track record. Founder transparency is much more credible. I'm absolutely with that. You have to know who is running these projects and, what they're really up to and what their plans are. But definitely, if you don't have a few years marked into your goals, then yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult to achieve them. Especially with Bitcoin, a lot of people, bought in maybe on the way up to 60 to 69, and then they're like, oh my gosh, it's back down to 29. I'm gonna no Bitcoin. No, wait a few years. It's okay, my friend. Hodl, stack your sats, and when in doubt, zoom out. So Arcane, Tiho, thank you so much for joining me today. You're such an icon. I need to have you back again soon. You're just so amazing, and your insights are absolutely awesome. Where can everybody find you? And I'll put those links in the live chat and they're in the description as well. Go on.
Well, thank you, Randy and Miss Teen Crypto Show family for inviting me on to have a conversation. It's always a pleasure.
We love you.
Arcane Bear, Arcane Bear. For those of you who don't know, Arcane just means kind of mysterious. It was the first A letter when podcasting kind of first showed up. I was like, I want to start a podcast. iTunes was always ordering podcasts in alphabetical order. So I'm like, okay, I'm going for the first kind of uniquely abstract A word here to line up early in that alphabetical. So we became the Arcane Bear. And then again, for those of you that don't know, bears are very good at accumulating. So unlike the common stereotype around bears, which is that they're only just about going down, technically the bears know how to accumulate for the down. And then do very well in the bull markets, whereas bulls just run at the first sight of red, scared. So I think the bear is a perfect emblematic animal for the investment thesis of a winner anyways. So yeah, we became the Arcane Bear. You can find me anywhere now by typing Arcane Bear, whether it's Twitter or I think we post on Instagram every now and then, but it's just silly photos of me and fruits or something.
It's awesome. And you playing instruments, guys.
Oh yes, yeah, that too.
If you watch the last Miss Teen Crypto show, if you scroll down the playlist and find the last show I did with Sir Bear, we did have him play some instruments, so definitely check that out. It was super zen. It was absolutely amazing. And if you want to see more of that, check out his Instagram. It'll be easier to find. I absolutely love those videos, and the ice bath videos too. I know that's something you're into, and I know a lot of people that do ice bath now, and it's just a way to clear your head and just find willpower. So I definitely commend you on doing that. And I love how zen you are. I like that you're interested in spirituality and taking care of yourself, because I need some of that.
Now. No, I actually nice now.
No, I'm being dead serious because
don't flatter your guests this much.
No, because I mean it. I wouldn't say if I didn't mean it, Sir Bear. You know that. I literally love the fact that you're very in tune with yourself, and you're very you know what you believe in, and you very much follow through in what you say you're gonna do, and you do your due diligence with whatever you do. I need to learn more from you, and that's why I continuously hit you up, and I'm like, hello, because I love what you do and your headspace, where it's at, how you educate yourself. And of course, how you meditate, because I need to learn how to meditate. I'm a little crazy.
It's just the hardest thing to do is sit down and close your eyes for 5 minutes.
It is. It's so hard.
But it's worthwhile. I really appreciate the invite to chat again, Randy. It's been a pleasure. I'm always excited to see your growth. There's not a lot of younger, inspired people who do almost anything. First off, so congratulations. But also, you happen to be in our sector, which we're a big fan of crypto. So, keep doing good things out there, helping educate and ask questions of people makes a big difference.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope everybody in the chat, Oscar, K9, Lambo Hobo, Greg, everyone that popped out. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate you guys. I will try to go live again this week. Not sure though, gotta confirm. But please subscribe, smash the like, share out this stream if you enjoyed it. I really appreciate every single one of you for popping out. Thank you, Sir Bear, again. I really appreciate you. Get your dancing shoes on, friends, because the intro song is coming back. We are going to hear the Miss Teen Crypto Zesty song again. So thank you so much for coming, guys. Enjoy your day. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.
Ciao.
Good morning, crypto Twitter, it's Miss Teen Crypto, spreading crypto adoption, showing its benefits to my generation. Shout out to all my people, Gen Z needs to be included, it's really that simple. We are savage, amazeball, zesty, making money at the same time, spread peace. Might feel empty if you don't include Gen Z, about to change the world, so y'all better get ready. Miss Teen Crypto, I'm never backing down, I got a wax account, you used to say it.